Welcome to What in the Duck podcast. I'm your host, Oliver Peck. What in the Duck podcast is proud to be sponsored by Yellow Rose Canyon, your premier event space and campground nestled in the piney woods of East Texas. With cabins and RV sites available, Yellow Rose Canyon is perfect for your next event, no matter the size. A wedding, reunion, festival, you name it. Check it all out at yellowrosecanyon.com. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of What in the Duck podcast. I'm your host, Oliver Peck, and today we have a great interview with none other than Todd Newman, a friend of mine from Los Angeles, California, and we're going to talk about a lot of different things that Todd Newman's done and what he's got going on now in the recent new release of the Morning Sun documentary. The documentary about Dave Navarro's mother's murder. It's kind of like an episode of a true crime story, but in depth about the happenstances that Dave went through growing up. It's pretty insane. Todd Newman being Dave's best friend, and he produced this documentary, and it's pretty cool, and it's newly out, re-released. It had a small release, and then it kind of just they had some ins and outs, but now they've got a new distributor and it's back out and you can check it out, and it is cool. So we're going to talk about that and a lot of other things with Todd Newman here shortly. But first, I'm going to answer some questions from the email. Thank you, everybody, to emailing in questions. Any questions you have for me, you can always email them to whatintheduckpodcast@gmail.com. And if I answer your question on the show, we will be contacting you to get your information to send you some free shit from the podcast. So be sure to, if you don't want to submit a question, you can always just subscribe, like, follow, share, and join the podcast new membership program. You can check that out and do all the things on the YouTube channel. If you're listening on YouTube, for those of you listening on Spotify or any other sort of platforms, please, join, follow, subscribe, do all the things. So we're going to get into these questions here. First question from Jason Sterling. Says, hey, Ollie, lately a lot of people ask me, people call me Ollie or people call me whatever. People call me Mr. Peck. People call me this or that. And what do you prefer? I was like, honestly, I prefer anything other than Mr. Peck. Anything else. Jackass, asshole, hey you, Ollie, Oliver, Pecker, whatever you want to call me. But a lot of people call me Ollie. They watch the show and Dave calls me Ollie, and I don't mind it. I grew up as a skateboarder kid being called Ollie a lot, so that's fine with me. So Jason Sterling says, hey, Ollie. Jason Sterling here. Ink Master question. It appears the contestants arrive with their own equipment. Some do. And the question is, how much do the producers provide in terms of supplies? What was the most impressed you've been by what a player was using, and or what was the worst, most unprofessional equipment you saw someone using? Thanks. So yes, the show did supply a lot of things. They supplied the stencil making equipment, the sterilization equipment, the lay down tables, the armrests, the lights, the counters. They also had a whole supply room of ink caps and razors and ointments and bandages and tape, and they even had needles and tubes and inks and all kinds of inks. And some tattooers were told that the show had all the stuff, so they just showed up without all their stuff and just used whatever stuff there was, which is fucking insane to me. I travel and tattoo quite a bit, and I take every single goddamn thing I need to do a tattoo. The stuff that I use on a regular basis, because I'm going to be doing a tattoo. I want to know that I have the stuff that I know how to use. One of the things you might have seen on the show is people complaining about, their tattoo gets ripped apart and this blue looks terrible. And then their rebuttal was, well, I never used that blue before. I didn't know how that blue was going to work. And they're trying to use that as an excuse. And in my mind, I'm like, well, why the fuck are you trying out something new right now? You are in the middle of a competition trying to show your expertise, and you're just going to try something new. How the fuck is that smart? You didn't bring your own fucking blue? You just showed up and used whatever blue they had? You think these TV fucking people know what blue is good? Are you out of your goddamn mind just because some shitbag ink company says, "Hey, Ink Master, we'll give you a bunch of free ink and you can give it to your tattooers and you can put it on a screen." So every time you see the show, there's like bottles of ink on the counter with the labels placed perfectly out so you can read the label. That's because of some ink company sponsored the show and gave them free ink. By no means were those tattooers told they had to use that ink. They had to set that ink there so people could see it on camera, so you could think that fucking bullshit brand of ink is good. But you just show up from across the country, some new room, some new thing, you're just gonna try something new? Idiots. Idiots. People didn't bring their own needles, people didn't bring their own net. A couple people, I mean, you remember one guy showed up with one machine. Remember that guy? So a lot of that happened. But all the really good tattooers, all the really good professional tattooers, all the people that did well in the show, all showed up with their own shit. Needles, tubes, inks, machines, everything. I'm even bringing my own razors because I don't know, you might have a shitty fucking razor. I don't want to use whatever razor might be laying around. I want to use a good one that's going to shave well and not fucking give somebody razor burn and not gonna fuck somebody up. I bring my own soap because you might have some bullshit soap. I bring every fucking thing. So a lot of tattooers did show up without their stuff, and it was pretty comical to watch because they were the ones struggling. They're the ones trying to figure shit out on the fly. And then you got Dave Cruzman, you got Jimmy Litwalk, you've got Clean Rock One, you got all these like seasoned long-term professional tattooers that did every single thing. They used their own stuff and they knew what they were doing. Because they weren't fucking idiots to just show up and expect everything to be there. But anyway, did I answer the question? Yeah, I did. There was a lot of what I consider amateurs that showed up on the show, thinking that this was going to be their breakthrough moment to like make it. And the concept of the show is they always would say at the beginning of the show, like, "We've assembled 20 of the greatest tattoo artists from around." No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You did not assemble 20 of the greatest tattoo artists or 18 of the greatest tattoo artists. You just got 18 tattoo artists that are trying to show people that they're great. So there's a few misconceptions in the show, but overall, overall, it was a great TV show. I mean, probably the best show on television. Um, and I appreciate all you guys watching. It was great. And thank you, Jason, for your question. And we're moving on. David Orton. David Orton says, "I'm not 100% sure, but I have a sneaking suspicion you're not a Pearl Jam fan. If the opportunity it's a sneaking suspicion. You're right, Dave. There is a suspicion of that. I am suspiciously acting in a way that I would probably tend to not be a fan of Pearl Jam music. But he says, if the opportunity presented itself, would you ever entertain the idea of having Eddie Vedder on the podcast? His music aside, I bet the dude has some interesting stories. Love the podcast. Thanks for all you do for art, entertainment, and your fans and followers. Cheers, Dave." Well, Dave, I will say this. I'm pretty sure I said in one of my Pearl Jam deals that I don't know Eddie Vedder. I don't know anything about Eddie Vedder. I don't know. I've never I don't know. I think he could be a wonderful man. I am just not a fan of the sounds that group of people gets together and produces. When they all get together and they put out sound, it is bad. Individually, these guys might be great. And the chances are that any one of those guys could go to another group of other individuals and create amazing sounds. Like that bass player could go be in another band. It could be a great band. That drummer could go be in another band, and that man could be a great man. Maybe even Eddie Vedder. Maybe he could even get in a different band and sing somewhat differently and be in a great band. But to be honest, I would love the opportunity to have Eddie Vedder on the podcast. I would love the opportunity to have anybody on the podcast. I like to hear what everybody has to say, and I want to hear. I'm sure you're right. He's probably got incredible stories because one thing Pearl Jam has done, despite the horrible music they make, they have toured the world for many decades and played festivals and concerts with a lot of amazing bands and a lot of people. And, you know, much to my disbelief, a lot of people do love this band and other bands love this band. So, I mean, he's probably got amazing connections and amazing relationships and amazing stories with all kinds of people and everything. So, yeah, to, uh, I would love to have him sit here and interview. And I would also hopefully, probably I would apologize to him for degrading his music so much. And because I'm not trying to personally attack him. It just kind of happened one day, and then the snowball ran downhill, and everybody chimed in, and I just kind of like stoked the fire and talked a bunch of shit about Pearl Jam. Now, by no way in this little sort of apologetic rant am I trying to backtrack and say that I don't hate Pearl Jam music. I do hate Pearl Jam music, but I do want to be specifically clear that I do not have anything personally against the band members themselves. And maybe, I mean, somebody out there might know this, but most people who play music for a living and are in bands, they've always been in other bands. And hardly anybody's only ever been in one band their whole life. So there's probably some of these guys from Pearl Jam have probably played with other bands or sat in with other bands or, you know, had bands previously or post or whatever. I would like to know if there is some good music being produced by some members of Pearl Jam. Maybe we need to go down that rabbit hole and see what good, or maybe my theory is wrong and everything these guys touch is solid poop. Who knows? Um, but to say all that's brown is not poop. So all that glitters is not gold. I guess that's it, David Orton. We are gonna also on this topic, just to give a little teaser out there, we do have some secret new items coming out. I'm not going to say what they are, but I will say they are related to that last question. We got some good stuff coming out. All right. Next question from Aaron P. Polson. Looks like it says. It's kind of a long question. This question took 2 pages to print out. I don't remember what this one is. Let me see. All right. I've been listening to What in the Duck for a while now and enjoy each episode. I appreciate the diverse backgrounds of each guest you have and how they are not all tattooers. Although I very much enjoy those the most. I'm just going to pop in and say real quick to that first statement that when I started this podcast, I did not want it to be just about tattooing. Tattooing is probably the number one thing in my life, but it's not everything in my life. I do other things. I know other people. Like my friend base is wide and diverse, and it's something that I love. So I wanted to make sure that the podcast wasn't like pigeonholed into just one thing, and I wanted to be able to have a guest on here. And people ask me what the podcast is about, and I'm like, well, whatever it's about, whatever comes up that day, whatever happens, whatever we talk about, whoever the guest is, it can go in any direction. And I kind of like that spontaneity of the podcast and having the interviews. And instead of just having a tattooer every week and being like, oh, how'd you start tattooing? Oh, who taught you to tattoo? Oh, what's your favorite thing to tattoo? It would just, you can only do that so much. And so when I do tattooers, I try to like talk more about personal things that we have done together as tattooers or, kind of, it always spins down something. So it works out pretty good. But I do like having a variety of people. And today's guest, Todd Newman, is different than any other guest I had before. So get ready for that. So he said, next he says, I began to start collecting tattoos in the American traditional style from artists at Sailor's Grave Tattoo Gallery here in San Diego, California, where I saw a Polaroid with your mug on it. That's my face, which made me start figuring out the traditional artist community is not as large as I thought it was. As I follow more and more artists across the country, I have come to realize that the American traditional circle is pretty small. True, I know the guys at Sailor Grave. I've tattooed at Sailor's Grave when I was there. Took a Polaroid of everybody that works there, and they put it on the wall, and there I am. I wanted to also thank you for putting me on to Lucero. I have always enjoyed good music. Growing up with my father, I had, I don't know what that word is. The page is kind of bleeped out. But he listened to 70s rock, Neil Young, Jim Croce, Simon Garfunkel, James Taylor. But I grew up in the 90s, so I was also listening to 90s country, which from listening to What in the Duck, I know you love. Ha ha. Also, Lucero is great. Thanks. So the word of Lucero is spreading. The greatest band of the modern era, as I say. My question, now he gets to the question. My question is, not sure if you've been asked this, but as an artist, do you prefer to be given full liberties to create whatever you want for a tattoo, or do you prefer be giving some direction? What percentage of your clients allow you to treat them as an open canvas? Love the podcast. Love your work. When you come back to San Diego, I'm pretty sure I need artwork in my collection. A. Ron. All right. Well, I will be back in San Diego someday. Do not know when. Keep posted for that. And I'm glad you love Lucero. And I'm glad your dad raised you on good music. But the question about tattooing and being given full liberty to create whatever you want, I've talked about this a little bit before, but I think every artist has a little bit of different discretion on how they want to do it. But I love a lot of different aspects of it. I love it when somebody comes in and wants a particular old flash. They're collecting tattoos, they're collecting retro traditional style. They want a specific old flash, and I love to do homage to the old stuff and do it. Sometimes they want it really traditional, look just like the old flash. Sometimes they want it that design with the new spin, which I'm totally cool with. Sometimes they want you to draw it up yourself, and I'm totally cool with that. There are people that come in and say, do whatever you want. And that becomes a tricky game because they say do whatever you want, but then it's also like your girlfriend saying, you know, you ask your girlfriend where you want to eat. And she's like, wherever you want to eat. And then you're like, okay, let's go here. And they're like, anywhere but there. So it's the same kind of thing. You like, somebody says, do whatever you want. And you like, get a skull and snake. Anything but a snake. And you're like, well, then it's not whatever I want. So then give me an idea. So I basically just pretty much tell people, if you say whatever, you're probably going to get a skull and snake. If you don't want a skull and snake, give me some kind of idea. But usually I'll draw up anything within a few minutes and can take inventory what someone already has and say, oh, you already have a shark. No sharks. You already have too many skulls. Most people have a shitload of skulls. Some people say you can never have too many skulls. But in fact, you can have too many skulls. I have seen it. But I do like it when I mostly draw every tattoo that I do, unless somebody specifically wants a very specific old piece of flash, so they want it just like that, then I'll do it just like that. Other than that, you give me the idea, and I draw it to fit the spot. And I guess that's pretty much the question. So if you're out there and you're thinking you think you want to be an open canvas, don't go to your artist and say do whatever you want unless you're really willing to get whatever. On this topic, we were talking the other day about how in the 90s there was like this it kind of was like an urban legend kind of folktale deal where tattooers were known to hide dicks in tattoos. This which I don't know, there probably was a few tattooers that were doing designs and like hiding dicks in there. I personally never knew anybody that really was like hiding dicks in random customers' tattoos. Did it happen? I'm not sure. There was some tattooers that did tattoos of dicks and were kind of known for it. And then people were like, oh, don't get tattooed by that guy. He'll just put a dick in everything. And I'm like, I know the guy. He would never put a dick unless you ask for the dick. So if you got a dick on it, it's what you wanted. But it kind of became a thing where people would come in and you'd be drawing up their tattoo and they'd be like, hey, don't put a dick in it. I'm like, I'm not going to put a dick in it. But it was, every day you'd be drawing a tattoo and somebody at the shop would be like, hey, make sure to, their friends would be there and look at the design, make sure there's no dicks in it, and it was like, it became this thing. I don't know how many of you guys out there that were tattooers in the 90s or getting tattooed in the 90s remember this, but it was pretty wild that spread. This is pre-internet. So it kind of just spread through the grapevine that, hey, man, if you get a tattoo, be careful. Those tattoo artist people, they like to hide dicks in designs. I don't even like to tattoo dicks on people, even when they want the dick tattooed on them. But I personally never hit a dick in a tattoo on a customer that they didn't want. I did do some other fucked up shit to friends of mine when I'm tattooing my friends. And I learned that's not a really good thing to do, because I've like tattooing somebody and then there's going to be an area where you're going to color it solid. And then you just, when they're not paying attention, you write something silly or put something fucked up in there and then laugh and they look at it. And they're like, hey, man, what the fuck? And you're like, don't worry, I'm going to color over it. And then you like color over it. But then you could still almost kind of see it at the end. So that was fun. But I quit doing that. And I only did that on my friends. So rest assured, maybe this whole topic is going to bring that back. Now people are going to start hiding dicks in tattoos. Who knows? But I think it was the Europeans. They were doing it the most. But somehow it leaked over to people in America. But rest assured, your tattoo artists most likely are not hiding dicks in your tattoos. Maybe if your tattooers were Disney employees, maybe then they would do it. But, all right. Stay tuned. Episode Todd Newman right now. Once again, if you have any questions for me, you can email them over at whatintheduckpodcast@gmail.com, and like, share, subscribe, follow, and join the podcast. We are doing everything we can to send out as much free shit to our listeners as possible. So all you have to do is engage and be a part of the program, and we will hook you up. All right, guys, let's do it. What in the Duck podcast is proud to be sponsored by Dream Machines of Texas. All of your used motorcycle wants and needs all in one place at dreammachinesoftexas.com. They have multiple locations, large inventory, and get new bikes in every week. Knowledgeable staff with great service, financing, and extended warranty options available. They also have a complete service garage, so every bike is gone through and brought up to speed before you hit the road. I've bought more than a few bikes from Dream Machines over the years, and I could not be more satisfied. I have also had friends from all over the country buy bikes because they couldn't find a better deal anywhere. You can buy a bike and have it shipped to you anywhere in the U.S. Why buy a brand new bike with that brand new high price when you can get a like new bike with that dream deal you've been looking for? Go to dreammachinesoftexas.com and get a bike and get your ass on the road. That's great. We're in close quarters here. All right, we are rolling. We're live. Welcome to another episode of What in the Duck podcast. I'm your host, Oliver Peck, and today I'm here in the back house. That's what we're calling it. This is the back house episode.
This is the back house. This is your house, basically.
This is the best Airbnb in town. We're here in Los Angeles, California, with my buddy Todd Newman. Thanks for having me, bud.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for always being such a gracious host. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this is kind of your pad when you come here.
Well, this is like the guest house, and whoever claims the first dibs on the date, whether your wife's got friends or you got other people in town.
Well, you're like one of two people I would even allow to stay back here, because most of the fucking people I know, I don't want them back here.
Well, I'm not here partying.
No, exactly.
So, well, man, so we're here. We're kind of set up and makeshift in the kitchen here.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Here we are.
Man, I'm on the road. I'm driving out. This is kind of a last minute. We've been talking about getting you on the podcast for a while.
Yeah, I've been wanting to come out there.
But I was like, I'm coming out. And I was like, what about Friday?
Perfect.
And Friday works. So, and then as soon as we get done here, I'm driving straight to Fresno. So there's a lot to talk about, man. Mm-hmm. And one of the, I think I'll just start off by saying, I just watched the episode of the Rare Form Radio with you and Dan Cleary, where you talk about the, we're not gonna trail down the road of the James breakdown.
I can't do another deep dive.
But I just want to let people know out there, if you haven't seen that episode yet.
Mhm.
Of Rare Form Radio with Dan Cleary. They talk about, the Boston beatdown, the James
Yeah.
Addiction fallout, and you're an integral part of that. So you had a lot of information to share on that. So we're just going to divert anybody that's interested in that
Right.
to go check out that episode because it's a great episode and gives a lot of detail of what's going on.
Yeah, it's all in there. Like, I am, just because of my association with Dave, I'm privy to a lot of insider stuff, and obviously Dan works with the band um, as a tech, and so it's all in there. Put it that way. You know what I mean? But and Dan titled the episode "Beantown Beatdown," which I wish he would have run that by me before.
There wasn't a real beatdown, but
No, there wasn't.
It was a meltdown
Yeah,
for sure.
It was definitely a meltdown. It was a Massachusetts meltdown.
Yeah,
That would have been a better title for
There
it.
you go.
But yeah, we take like a deep dive into it, and just, there was a lot of obviously when something happens and it goes online, there was a lot of misinformation, and we kind of did our best to steer everybody on the right path of it all.
Well, I will say this, man. Sometimes, you meet people in life in various ways, and sometimes when you meet a certain person, things just really click.
Mhm.
And I met you through Dave,
Right.
when we first started filming Ink Master, and me and Dave became quick friends,
Right.
because we were on that show together, and it was, we just kind of got along really well.
Mhm.
And then when I met you, we just kind of it was just one of those things.
Just clicked.
We just instant old friends kind of feel.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, that's been 15
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's crazy. Time flies, and we've been friends so long. And, I just, I really appreciate you for just being such a great guy.
And the same goes for me. And like, you can ask Dave, you can ask my wife, you can ask all the people that are close to me. Like, I just have a couple of people around me that I consider my people, the people that I met, and within fucking 30 seconds, it's like, oh, okay, this person's with me for the end of time now. You know what I mean? And you certainly are one of those people. And even my wife's like, you'll call like, oh, I'm coming in, let's go grab food or whatever. My wife's like, you're like a little kid when he calls. You definitely bring that out in people, And Dave and I did a radio show for almost 15 years.
Yeah.
Dark Matter, which you
I
were
was
on
there
a
a few
bunch of times, and once you started working with Dave, and then we became friends, it became a thing amongst our listeners where people would go, Newman, because that's what you would say to me on a constant basis. So yeah, but yeah, I'm very happy.
That was a
with the
pretty
way
good
thing worked
impersonation,
out.
dude.
Newman!
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. I feel like, where am I at?
So yeah, man, it's good stuff.
Good stuff, man. And so, go back in the earliest history of what I learned about you. When I very first met you, was that you had done some really cool shit.
Mm-hmm.
You had written some episodes of Married with Children.
Yeah, I did.
And I was like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
How? And I've heard, you've told me a little bit of things. I've never really deep dived in, like, how did you get to a point where you wrote something that was used on Married with Children?
Well, the way that happened was I was really good friends with Dave Faustino. Still am.
Yeah.
Dave
Bud.
Faustino. Yeah, Bud Bunny, who you've worked on. You've tattooed him. Yeah.
And I called him Bud like 20 times on
What's
accident.
up, Bud? Like, well, the thing about Oliver, as people listening, they obviously know, he'll say, "What's up, Bud? Bud," and you were kept calling him Bud, and I was like, dude, he just says that to everybody. He's not actually denigrating you and your character. But Dave and I were friends for a long time. We still are. I've known him for like 30 years at this point.
Y'all are very similar.
Yeah.
Y'all look like cousins or something.
Yeah, I maybe could stunt double for him.
Oh,
but when I first moved out to Los Angeles from New York, Dave and a couple of guys that we're mutual friends with were the first crew of guys that I hung out with, where we were just going out all the time. And this is years ago. So like, this is when we were partying.
Yeah.
And Dave and I became fast friends. And
Todd used to party.
Yeah, I used to party. Actually, I'll be 22 years sober on the 7th of next month.
Cheers to that, my friend.
But yeah, I used to fucking go hardcore. And so we were friends for a bit, and I used to just say to him, just in passing, like, you know what you guys should do on your show? You should do this. You should do that.
Which
You should do.
everybody
Yeah, of
who
course.
knows anybody who's on any movie or TV show or in a band, you know
Right.
what your band should do? You know what
Yeah.
you should
Yeah,
do?
yeah. So I was that douche,
Yeah.
like fucking in his ear, like, you guys should do this, you guys should do that. And I guess he had an affinity for what I was saying, because one day he calls me, he's like, yo, I got you a meeting with the producers of the show. And I went, and I never had really written. I mean, I had written some stuff before, but it wasn't like the goal of mine to
Yeah.
do that. So I sat down and I fleshed out these ideas and wrote them down. And it's funny because I took them all.
Did
And
you write them in script form where you're like, Ed
No,
O'Neill says this? And
no,
then,
no,
you
no,
know what I
no,
mean? Like,
no. I just fleshed out the idea,
Okay.
like almost in a
Short
one
story.
page,
Yeah, yeah.
like or two. And I had no idea like how to protect myself or anything, so I put them in an envelope and I sent them to myself in the mail and never opened it. So that
Yeah.
was the cheap copyright,
Poor man's copyright.
poor man's copyright. And I went in and I pitched a couple of things to them, and they were like, "Oh, those are great," and whatever. I just walked out of the office, and then the next day, uh, I don't know if it was Dave or if it was someone else came up to me, because I was hanging around with him at the set a lot too, and said, "Congratulations, they bought a couple of your ideas." So then I went and started writing more, and went in a few more times, and there's one that Dave and I co-wrote together that I kind of just came up in the office. They were like, well, those are good, but we're not going to take any of those. And they're like, do you have anything else? And there was a poster of Uncle Sam, like, I Want You on the wall. So I was like, well, what if all the guys were like in boot camp, and you got like the Lee Ermey, from Full Metal Jacket, to like berate them on the show. And so they were like, that's great. And they bought it right in the room. And they ended up approaching him, and he turned it down because felt like he was getting stereotyped as the drill sergeant. Someone else played the role, but that one got made into an episode. So yeah, that's how I started writing. And I've been writing ever since. I wrote a ton of stuff since then, but yeah, that's what got me into it.
So being the annoying friend sometimes pays off.
Pays off, yeah, exactly.
And this is all, this is pre-sober.
Yeah, this is pre-sober.
Yeah. And so at what point did you, once you got sober, did it like say, hey, I can really do something with this?
Well, it's funny because I was working a lot. I was writing a lot. I was doing like a little acting, and buddies I know would have an independent film they were doing, and yeah, come, you'll be this guy. Just say whatever, like those kind of things. And yeah, I was getting out of hand with how much I was partying, obviously. And if there was people that like listen to Dark Matter or whatever, Dave and I would talk about our drug addictions a lot. Like, I'm an ex-junkie, like I was really going for it. It was no longer a party anymore at the point where I finished. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I would write and write and write because it's kind of like the best world for a fucking junkie. Like, I'm home all the time.
Yeah.
I'm writing and I'm working. If you have some success in, at least it was this way back then, and you've sold something for a show, that's syndicated, you're gonna get residuals. So like, I had money coming in, I didn't have to worry about that, and I could sit home and get high and write. My my issue with it getting sober was, what if it was the opposite of what you're saying, is what if I can't write?
Yeah.
What if this is all gone? What if I can't fucking have conversations with people? What if I can't fucking write anymore? What if and the truth is, without getting to a long, boring story of it, once I got sober, all that stuff came tenfold, like back. Like, it was real. You know what I mean? And I could do it way better.
What a lot of people get stuck in is when they're achieving some sort of success while they're using or drinking or fucking up, they associate the ability to do what they're doing with
that's
drugs.
exactly what I did.
And so people in bands, they're like, your band's popular, you're on drugs. You think, well, if I get sober, will I still be able to rock out? And I've seen it with tattoo artists. I've seen it with, actors and musicians. And people think they can't do what they're doing because they think that's a part of
100%.
the artistic process, or a part of the inspiration, or a part of the creativity, or a part of the, and it's
and to some extent it is, in the sense that it's part of you. It's what you're doing. It's the truth of what you are at that time. But there's so much more that you can go past once that phase ends and once you put that behind you. But yeah, it was a real fucking fear at first. Like, it even got to the point where, like, you know me, I could be a fucking cynical New York pessimistic pain in the ass ball breaker, like talking shit. And I even thought, am I gonna is that gonna be gone too? You know what I mean? So it's not even just your work. It's like, am I not gonna be who I am anymore? And you become that. Like, you become who you are meant to be anyway. Like, whether you're on drugs or you're not. You know what I mean? So I learned pretty quickly that, wow, I can be way more productive and way more creative sober than I can. That it just had run its course. That was it. It was done.
Well, you're one of the lucky ones that, was able to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens to a lot of people is they don't get sober, and then the success goes away, and then
Yeah.
they
Then you're
got
stuck. Yeah.
nothing. Then
Yeah.
then that's how you end up
Yeah. The shame just
down and out.
fucking keeps you down. Yeah. Like, and we've known too many people. Like, I've been sober coming up on 22 years. Like, how many people I know that are not here anymore? It's fucking insane.
It's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot. I have a lot of friends that I had when I was partying that are trying to get sober now.
Uh-huh. Same here. Yeah.
Been sober 30 years, and they're doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh fuck, it's
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah.
Long time to struggle through.
Right, but from my own experience, the good thing is once you start that process, it can turn around really quick if you let it. No matter how much damage you've done. So, I'm always helping out. Like, of course, I'm the guy. Like, hey man, you think you have a few minutes to talk? And I'm like, yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
are the guy.
Of course.
So Married with Children, that
Mhm.
went well,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've a lot of things happened between then and
Of
you
course.
creating your own film projects.
Right.
But like, what led you down the road to want to like because you made a documentary,
Right.
that's
Which is going to be re-released actually on March 1st.
So
couple of days.
that's a new topic that we need to drop.
Yeah.
And this documentary is really good. Yeah. Morning Sun. It's the story of Dave Navarro and his mother's murder when he was a child, and it's kind of a gut wrencher.
Yeah, it is a gut wrencher, but what Dave and I intended to do was make a film that is honest, but also had it really was focusing more on the human condition and what happens to someone, and the different choices and paths they can take when a true trauma happens to them in their lives. Because, like, some people, a tragedy like that happens to, and they fall apart. They lose their lives. It's just all goes out the window. They can't cope. And other people have the ability to use it to their advantage, not in in a diabolical way, but to their advantage to strengthen themselves and to help other people. And it's really a study of the human condition through someone, being Dave, who uses art as an outlet. And whether it be music, whether it be painting, whether it be all that stuff that that Dave does, whether it be escapism, that's a big thing for him. So we really tried to take a deep dive into that. And we really had no game plan.
Yeah.
We were just like, let's just start filming shit and see where it takes us. So it was my first documentary that I filmed, and we were just like kind of borrowing. Dave and I were doing this this show called Spread TV. It was like one of the first talk show type of things that was online. Like we kind of missed the mark because we were a little bit ahead of the time with that. And it was like a desk and couch, and like he was the Johnny Carson and I was the Ed McMahon.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of guests and a musical guest, and we did it in this. And I would just like say to them, hey, can I borrow that camera this weekend? Like, even if you watch the film now, you'll see some stuff is in 4:3, some stuff is in 16:9, because the formats were all different then and they were starting to change. So we just started filming and like kind of seeing where it goes. And the thing that I learned about documentary filmmaking when you go on that type of journey, so to speak, is you kind of shouldn't know where you want to go, because you talk to one person.
Because you want to learn.
Yeah, you want to learn.
It's like an investigative journalism type story.
It's exactly what it is, because I hired a private investigator to find people that were close to Dave's mom or that had something to do with the case. The police officers that were like first on the scene
Yeah,
that
it had a very
investigated.
crime drama element to part of it.
Yeah, we wanted to give like something for everybody. Like like if you watch the film, you watch the first 5 minutes, you're gonna be like, what the fuck did these guys make? Like, holy shit. Cause there's weird, crazy shit right at the front. And I promise to anybody out there that is gonna see it that hasn't seen it, if you watch the beginning and you're like, I don't know if I want to watch this, this is fucking weird. Get to the end, it all will make sense. It all does come full
Yeah.
circle. But we wanted to put that artistic element and make an art documentary mixed in with a through line of a crime documentary because there is an investigative quality to the circumstances of what happened. And we found that so I hired a private investigator, and you find that this guy tells you one piece of information that you never heard before. And then you're like, oh shit, now we got to track this guy down or someone who knows something about this. There was a lot of stuff kept from Dave because he was 15 at the time of the murder and he was a witness in the case. So there was a lot of shit that he didn't know. So a lot of it's discovery for
And you
him.
obtained all the old footage, you know, and there's like news footage of him
there's
as a
news,
young kid.
yeah, there's news footage, there's home movies, there's all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was daunting. It took us, I mean, also Dave was shooting some of Ink Master. He was playing with Jane's Addiction. So it took us almost 7 years to make the film. So it was like,
well, that's the thing.
yeah.
If you're going to film a movie, you have a script, you have a timeline, you have day set, and your movie's going to take 6 months to film, and boom, boom, boom.
Right.
Documentaries, you don't know what you're going to
Yeah.
be filming next week, or you don't know who you're going to interview next week. And
yeah, and the other thing too was like because we didn't have like someone floating the bill or
you didn't have a large crew.
We didn't have a large crew. A couple of friends helping out here and there. We produced it. I directed it.
You edited it.
Yeah. Well, we had hired an editor too, and we kind of co-edited together. But he took on the brunt of the actual, all the technical stuff. A guy named David Frame, who was invaluable to the film. But the thing is we were in 100% total control of the film because it's
which doesn't happen that much.
Right. Well, it's also a really touchy subject for Dave to tackle. So the fact that we had no one to answer to, like no producer saying, guys, I need a cut here, or I want you to put this scene of this in there. We had ultimate control. And we also had the power to shelve it and never talk about it again if it was too rough for him.
Yeah.
To
You weren't committed.
Yeah. I mean, we were committed, but we weren't committed.
You weren't contractually obligated to someone else.
No, not at all.
Which is a big thing.
Huge thing. And I don't know if we could have done a project like this with that over our heads, because we would have just been like, well, fuck that. We're not doing it then. You know what I mean? So
I could see that happening for sure.
Yeah. There was many times where we got into the space of you want to just stop doing this. I remember one time, there's a lot of things too, because Dave's, my best friend, right? So on one hand, I'm tackling this project as, well, this guy's my friend. I want to protect him from things. And a lot of times I got privy to information that he didn't know yet about the case.
Yeah.
So I have to tell him as a friend, but I also am directing this.
I need some reaction on camera.
Yeah, so you're like, hey, you think you can act really surprised when shit like that is a really it's a mind fuck.
Yeah.
And it's a crazy line to walk as the friend and the director. There was one time where I had just obtained footage from court because we interviewed John Walsh, one of the key things that helped crack this case, because the killer was on the loose for 8-9 years or something like that. And America's Most Wanted, which was a really popular show at the time.
But it wasn't like we don't know who did it.
Right.
Like,
no.
we know who did it.
Yeah.
We just don't know where the fuck
we
they
just
are.
don't know where the fuck they are. Yeah. So, without getting too verbose about the ins and outs. But yeah, they knew who the killer was, but they just couldn't find him. So, we interviewed John Walsh, and they had run the story on America's Most Wanted with like a reenactment of a guy playing the killer, that kind of stuff. And he was nice enough to let us fly out to DC, sit down for an interview, and give us a bunch of court tapes because he had his crew go out and film a bunch of like the prosecution's side of the case. And there's Dave. I think he was in the Chili Peppers at the time and sitting with his dad in the courtroom and all this stuff. And this is hours and hours and hours of these big, like 3/4 inch tapes. And I had to get a machine that could play them on my thing. And I'm scrubbing the footage. And oh my God, there was no footage of the crime scene. And this guy wheels in a board on the footage and it's photos of the crime scene. And on the one hand, I'm like, holy shit, this is awesome. Then in that same second, I'm like, oh my God, I got to show this to fucking Dave. This is awful.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm looking at the footage. I don't hear. This is when my editing bay was in my front house. Now it's up here. And I don't hear the doorbell ring or anything. My wife must have let him in. He comes in the fucking office, opens the door. It's on my monitors. He's like, dude, is that my fucking mom? Like in the crime scene floor. And I'm like, trying to hit the space bar. Like,
it's like your mom walking in on you fucking with the Playboy magazine.
And so like we had to navigate some hard stuff like that. And there were times where it was like, I was almost thankful that he would have to go shoot in New York to shoot Ink Master or go play shows with Gene, so I could do that without having to broach some of that with him until it was all done.
You start a project like this, obviously he's willing to go down some crazy roads, right? And so you're expecting that shit's going to get heavy,
right?
But then it's still heavy when it gets there.
Yeah,
You can expect it to be heavy all you want,
but it's never.
But that's not going to make it lighter.
Yeah, and it's never how you expect it to be heavy. Like that was a moment that now we'll sit and tell that story and kind of laugh a little bit about how fucked up it was.
Dave is very good about making jokes about terrible things.
Well, there's a whole section about that in the film because and he and I share that affinity of like
dark humor.
Like joking about it is another way. And Dave says it very eloquently in the film too, like what that explanation is of like, it's sad and it's horrible and it's grief-stricken. It's all those things. Why can't it also be funny?
Yeah.
And that's important to us. So we definitely put some of that in the film.
Yeah, Dave would always, it's happened 1,000 times, but somebody will say something about their mother. Right. And Dave's like, oh yeah, just rub it in my face.
Yeah.
And even you have a mother, he'll like make a joke.
Yeah. Even though I've heard him say that a million times to someone,
that's coping. That's his coping mechanism. Yeah.
Still hearing it is still funny to me. Which is why he and I are friends. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's so yeah. Anyway, the film it was out for a few years, and then the distribution deal ran out, so they pulled it from most of the sites. But it's coming back. It's been getting re-released.
It also wasn't the easiest thing to find for some point in time, I think.
Yeah, I mean that was a conscious decision too. And that was Dave's decision. Like he was like, I just want to kind of put this quietly out, and if people find it, they're meant to find it.
Yeah.
And
because it didn't have a big media push. There was like a little bit of a screening.
No, we did like 2 screenings, maybe 3 screenings, and a couple of little small interviews about it. But he didn't want a big media push for it.
Yeah, he didn't want to try to like money grab it.
No.
Yeah,
which is why another reason why we wouldn't accept a dime from anyone who wanted, because we did have some people like, what are you guys doing with that? Like who wanted to help us out, and it's like. We're just going to take care of this ourselves.
Yeah. Well, everybody I know that's seen it is like, man, that's great. So I think it's cool I think it's good that it's coming back out, and it's going to get a new distribution deal. And it's coming out. I mean, really now, by the time this airs, it'll be out.
Yeah. Okay. So March 1st. Yeah. So
by the time this airs, it's out, so you can find it.
Yeah. And it'll be on your usual, like Amazon, Google Play, like things like that. And I'll post where you could find it, But what's weird is, and almost kind of ghoulish in a weird way, when the incident happened between Dave and Perry that went viral, I started getting, that's how I knew it was pulled down. Because I thought it was just where it was, and I'm moving, I'm working on a fucking million different projects since then. And I thought it was just still anytime you wanted to watch it, you go to Amazon or whatever.
Yeah.
And people started direct messaging me on my social media saying, "Where's Morning Sun? We can't find Morning Sun. We can't find Morning Sun." And then I looked and I called the distributor and they were like, "Oh, the deal ran out." And then that company kind of disbanded and we just did a new deal with one of the guys from the company.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, and I still, for a long time, would get a message from someone weekly, 2 messages, 3 messages a week of someone who watched it, who was in a similar situation, who was like, "I've never seen it put this way before," that kind of thing. So that it seems like you help. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's got to be weird being the direct, like you said earlier, being the director and the friend, but you're
Yeah.
also a character in
Yeah, I'm
you're
in it a little bit.
prominent.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty prominent.
Right, right,
There's some real prominent scenes.
Well, if it
where-
was up to me, it would just be about me and Dave. Dave wouldn't even be in it. No.
My best friend's mother was
Yeah.
murdered.
Yeah, he was unavailable for comment. How's my close up? Yeah. Which is a joke that Dave would make.
Yeah.
There's one, for people who haven't seen it, I don't want to divulge much, but there's one scene that I am in where I'm kind of worrying about the state of Dave. And the camera catches me kind of like kneeling from behind. And I didn't know they were filming me at the time. And I'm kind of just looking off into space because it's a pivotal moment in the film, which I'm sure you know what it is. And I'm kind of nervous about how he's going to react to a certain situation. And like every time we were in the fucking editing room, he would say to me, like, "Look, there he is. Directed by Todd Newman, capital letter, lowercase letter, directed by." Like he would just go into these fucking things where that's my big moment. Like, so which was fucking funny. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. I think it's been a while since I watched it. I'll probably watch it again.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be. I think it'll probably get a boost, like you said. The viralness of what's going on with Dave is reenacted.
I've watched it. I haven't watched it often because, like, I lived it basically. But I watched it maybe 2 years ago or a year and a half ago or something. I don't even know what prompted me to watch it, but I think I had to watch something for a scene to pull something from it, and I started watching the whole thing, and I really thought, like, this is very interesting and helpful. You know what I mean? Which is what I kind of hope in the end is like, we kind of made a documentary just because Dave and I were lovers of documentaries. You know what I mean? You have a great story. Let's fucking make that. And then it was the first time I was able to watch it like we weren't in it.
Yeah.
Or had anything to do with it. And I was like, oh, fuck, man. Like,
but you're also always trying to think of what project to be a part of or do something,
Right.
Got to do.
Yeah.
So is that the only full-length documentary that you've made?
Yeah, it'll be a little bit. I've had some false starts with documentaries, and I have stuff that I have worked on that is still going to be worked on. But documentaries are hard, man, because like a lot of times when I'm writing or working on something, I'm juggling a couple of different projects. When you're working on a documentary, you got to go all in or nothing. You know what I mean? And you have to be working with people that are also all in.
It's a passion project.
Yeah,
a lot of favors.
Yeah,
a lot of helping out.
Yeah,
it's not like a movie budget.
And because I did it that way, where we kind of like footed the bill for everything, and it was all under our control in that sense. I don't know that I'd want to do one where someone's telling me what to do and what not to do. If it's a scripted project, that's a different story, But yeah, there was a few that I was like all gung ho, I'm gonna do this, and then I was like, I don't know if I want to fucking do this right now. It's a task for sure.
I have some other filmmaker friends that have made some really good documentaries, and then they're just like, I don't want to.
Never doing that again.
Yeah. I mean, more work
right
than the average, project.
And it's, historically they're not like big money makers. you know?
Historically, they're
Yeah.
not.
So it's
That's
like,
what I say. It's a passion project.
yeah,
You
there
got to
you
do it
you
for
have to
love.
be into doing it, and you have to be into the story, and you have to be into the discovery of, and you have to be also in a position where, fuck, I was gonna do this way, but now with the information I just received,
Yeah,
I gotta
new doors
change the
open.
whole
You got to
thing.
go.
Yeah, which happened to us 30 fucking times on that film. You know what I mean? Like, hmm, we were gonna tell that story, and now it makes no sense to tell that story, so we're gonna scrap it. Like, if at one time when I was just cutting stuff, like before we even brought editing on and stuff like that, there was like a 7-hour movie in the timeline. And
Right?
now, the way the business is now, you can parse that into 6 episodes, 7 episodes, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But back then, that wasn't the model. So it was like, how am I gonna fucking whittle this thing down to like an hour and a half? You know what I mean?
Well,
But
a lot of these docuseries that you watch nowadays that are so in depth,
mhm.
like there's no way that somebody could make a 2-hour documentary out of some of these things.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah,
they could make a quick version of it, but
yeah,
they go so deep.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
There was a lot of things we didn't talk about that we had, that it was just like, is that really?
well, like you said, you got 7 hours of footage. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, yeah,
It's gotta
yeah.
You gotta shave it
And
down.
you'll sit there and you're fucking toil over like this one little thing, and the storyline of it, the narrative, then the look of it, and like, let's triple cover it, and I'm gonna go back and reshoot some stuff around it and get all these cool cutaways, and you put it together, and then you're like, fuck, delete. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
I do.
that's part of it. But that's like with anything, making music,
Yeah,
whatever.
that
It's like,
same struggle is in movies and TV and stuff because there's always, I mean, Ink Master,
yeah.
the show Ink Master. There's people ask me questions about the show, and I'm just like, you gotta realize how many hours of footage there are
All right.
for every episode.
Yeah.
It's 3 days, 15 cameras, 12 hours a day, 100 hours.
Yeah, which I was there for many.
Yeah.
I would
And
come visit maybe twice a season or
and
something.
that's
Yeah.
got to be 47 minutes of television.
Yeah, yeah.
Hours and
Yeah.
hours.
And
Dozens of
on a
hours.
timeline and quick, like you have to, get it done and stuff like that. Yeah, people don't see what goes in behind all of it.
And so, like, for me and Dave and Nunez on our side of it, it's like they're trying to get us to elaborate,
Mhm.
and they want more from us,
Yeah,
from us.
yeah.
And by the time you've seen a few seasons, it's like, why? You're gonna use 8 seconds.
You better go back to Garfield with that thing.
Here's my 8 seconds. Leave me
Yeah.
alone.
Right.
So it's at the beginning you're willing to give them like so much,
Right, right.
and then by the end you're just like, you're not going to use this shit. Why
Yeah,
am I
yeah,
standing here for
yeah.
15 hours on camera when it's
Yeah, it becomes disheartening for a minute. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, woo. I can't even imagine editing a passion project like
No.
that where it's like you feel like the stuff is important.
Yeah, it's hard because a lot of times too, you want so desperately to make something work, and it really, at the end of the day, becomes, the quicker I let this go, the easier it's going to be for me. But you just can't. It's like throwing away children. Like, I worked on it. Can't we just make a little side thing? But which is why, like, I think that there's a lot of director's cuts for movies and stuff like this. Like, the director wanted it to be this way,
Yeah.
and the studio would only allow it to be this way. So then it
Yeah.
becomes a
Ridley
success.
Scott's
Yeah.
famous for that.
Yeah, it becomes a success, and it's like, all right, on the DVD, let's put my fucking version because that's the vision I had. So I understand that for sure. At some point, Dave and I discussed doing like, I mean, it's escaping me what they call them, like the voiceover, like us talking.
Commentary?
Commentary.
I
easy word.
love a
Yeah.
commentary, dude.
We were gonna do commentary, like, and just talk about the shit. Like, oh, remember when you fucking walked in on me when I had the picture of your mom up there, that kind of stuff, and the jokes we would make, which some of those jokes ended up in the film, like when we were filming, and I was like, let's just make a little comic section here
Yeah.
because it's necessary, and plus you learn with a documentary, especially. I mean, with any film, but a documentary, you have to learn how to step on the gas and how to hit the brakes so that the audience can breathe for a second. Because there were some cuts where it was just like assault, 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 and it's like, people are gonna lose their they're
It's
not
like
gonna
that
want to
movie
see
like
it
that movie
anymore.
Uncut Gems.
Yeah.
Where you're
Boom,
like
boom, 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 boom. We're like, let's fucking hit him, hit him, hit him, hit him. But no, you start to learn that rhythm, and sometimes it takes putting all that shit in there and walking away from it for a couple days, and then going back and be like, well, we can't leave this like this. We got to let someone have a fucking break and breathe.
Yeah, I think the little lighthearted moments,
Yeah,
it brings you back to
and it's human.
somebody's dealing with
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
Somebody's like, at the end of the day, somebody's had to continue living after what happened.
yeah. It
So,
humanizes it for sure.
yeah,
For sure.
that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, March 1st.
March 1st, you can watch Morning Sun, and it's going to be available pretty much everywhere. Basically, what it's
And
saying.
the title, by the way, is spelled MOURNING SON.
Yeah.
A lot of people will text me and say,
I
I can't
find
find morning SUN, MORSUN. And I'm like, oh no, it's a play on words.
Yeah.
Morning sun.
Dave Navarro is the sun,
Yes.
and he is morning.
He is morning. Yes.
I mean, it's a great whole package.
Yeah.
The documentary's great. Everything. So going after that was a lot of years in and out. You had
Yeah.
other projects going on.
Mhm.
I know you got some new projects. I don't
Mhm.
know how much you can talk about what new projects you got.
The one that I'm most working on now, it's a young adult series. That's pretty much all I can say.
That's all you can say.
That's pretty much all I can say because we're in the middle of
It.
Pitching it and stuff like that right now. But yeah, I work with my partner Dwayne, who I've known since high school, and he was my best buddy growing up. And then he kind of was doing a different thing, and writing, and he shoots toy commercials and all kinds of stuff. And I was doing very different subject matter, and it was just like, it's time for us to work together. We had worked on some stuff 20 years ago, but we kind of took this long breath in between, and he was doing one genre and I was doing another, and then it kind of was the right time, and he had come up with this little seed of an idea that it's going to be uninteresting to your viewers because I can't really talk about it.
Yeah.
But it's like in that Stranger Things, Umbrella Academy,
But
those worlds.
When you put some effort into a potential project, you've got to have some sort of gauge on how much am I going to put into this before I know it's going to pay out, right? So you're writing and developing and storyline. You get like a rough, and then you try to get it okay to go further, or you try to. I mean, how long do you put in on a project that's gonna ends up getting squashed?
Well,
versus what do you get? What kind of little leads do you get to say, hey, we got something, we're gonna keep going?
There's a few factors. And I've been in that position many times where more times with that than with success or selling something, So there's been times where I'll put a little bit in and I'm like, I just know from my own experience, this is going nowhere. You know what I mean? Or even if it does, it's not going to give me what I think my expectations are on it. So then there's other things that you put a lot of time into and you're just like, you kind of lie to yourself and say, well, I'm going to just shelf it for a minute. And you're never going to return to that fucking thing. Unless there's some extenuating circumstances and someone's looking for that exact thing. Then there are other things, and this is one in particular where it's like, this has all the things firing, like as far as the creativity, like the point, the message we're trying to make.
Timeline.
It's got a message. It's got a timeline. It's got a bankable genre. It's something that could be done now. There's other things that are being done, like ours has a different slant. Like all those kind of things kind of come together, and you take on the attitude of like, I don't give a fuck what the chances are. I'm sticking with this, and this is one of those projects for me now.
Yeah,
because I'm working on a few different things, and the other ones, they do not take precedent over this, and there's other things that I've worked on that I kind of know on the onset of starting, like stuff I've written by myself, or I write with a few different partners, or with a partner where it's like, no one is gonna make this because it's gonna cost too much, or it's period P, or this or that, but I have to write it.
Yeah,
and just I don't care about the result. I just care about what we put on the page. And if I have to use it as a writing sample and it took 6 months of my life to just use it as a writing sample, fine. but I have to do this project. So there's those too.
But the other side of the coin on that is you, from my knowledge, you don't seem like the guy who's doing the things that you don't want to do just because someone else wants you to do them.
No.
You're not.
No, if someone says, "Hey, I got a store, I got a thing, and like I got this amount of money, and can you write this for me?" It's not. I just can't do it.
Like,
if I don't like it, I'm like, I'm not the guy for this. And people will be like,
well, why not?
Even my wife, like, are you fucking idiot? Like, and I'm like, I just can't do it.
You're spoiled.
Yeah, I am. I'm fucking spoiled. Like, I just don't want to work on shit I don't want to work on.
I mean, that's how I am.
Not at my age anymore.
That's
now,
how I am. Like, I don't do shit I don't want to do, really.
Yeah.
I've done, you can say the whole stereotypical, I paid my dues, I did this for this many years, and now I'm going to do whatever I want. But yeah, I'm spoiled to that point.
Yeah, I'm totally spoiled to that. Like, I'm just not fucking going to do something I don't want to do.
And I feel like if things were to fall hard and I'd end up on hard times, I could do whatever I needed to do to get by.
Right, but you're not at that point, so why live that way? I think exactly the same fucking way as that. Like, if I got to go bag groceries because I can't eat and I can't clothe my children, I will.
Yeah.
But I'm not at that point, so why even fucking think about it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, do what you want to do.
Yeah. And there are those people that thrive on doing that.
You've been through a lot of struggle to get to the point where you're spoiled.
Yeah. I deserve to be fucking spoiled. Let's call my wife and bring her out on this. Like, she doesn't agree with the fact that I deserve to be spoiled, but
yeah, where's she at right now? She's out buying you a new watch or something, right?
I hope so. She better be. She wants to keep things happy around the house. She's, and my wife, and what's cool about her and I is
y'all are both hustlers. Y'all are both fucking hustlers.
Yeah, and she works in this industry, I guess, quote unquote, but in a completely different facet, in a completely different end. And she's like type A personality, boom, boom, boom. And I'm just a loudmouth piece of shit. And somehow it works.
How did she get stuck with you?
I basically bullshitted her into thinking like I'm a fun, cool guy.
She's one of those women that wants to find this little poor little sad puppy that needs help.
Fix him. Yeah. No, we've been together 28 years.
Yeah.
So this isn't some.
That's what I'm saying. She was with you when you were a fuck up.
Yeah, she was with me when I was a total fuck up, and I was with her when she was a kid. But she was always like, I don't give a fuck what you're doing. I'm doing this, and I'm going in this direction. Hang out with me or don't. You know what I mean? And so, she's awesome.
Well, it's less and less common these days.
Yeah.
That people make it work.
Yeah.
I
don't know how. People will ask us too, like, or they'll say, people that we know, you guys have the perfect relationship. And I'm like, you don't really see what goes on behind closed doors. First of all, we put out that we do. And when I think about it, I'm like, we actually do have it pretty dialed in, not without its bumps and fucking peaks and valleys and everything. But yeah, it's not easy. And it's not easy in a city like this where there's just fake fucking bullshit everywhere. At every turn. And we've just, we've figured out it's just like natural. It's not hard for us.
The biggest thing is not having a delusion about who the other person is.
Yeah.
Just have an actual realization of who the other person is and not wanting to change that person.
Yeah. We're so not. You know us both. We're complete opposites.
Yeah. I mean, Audra's not trying to change who I am.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, my wife certainly isn't trying to change who I am. I couldn't change her if I tried, And you make little sacrifices on your own merit that you feel are just to keep things smooth, but that's certainly not one changing the other. You know what I mean?
And you're not sacrificing yourself.
No.
You're making choices for the betterment.
Yeah.
She's
getting the better. I'm getting the better deal than she is. Let's put it that way.
How much was she a part of your recovery?
You know, she was she did the best thing that probably if she had went to like Al-Anon or places like that, they could take a page out of her book. Put it this way, because she was supportive. Like, yes, I want you to fucking, and I was fucking bad. I was, I'd been hospitalized a bunch of
Yeah.
times. Like, it was not, oh, he's drinking too many wine coolers and having smoking too much weed. Like,
Heroin.
yeah, I was fucking shooting heroin and smoking crack. Like,
Yeah.
boom, you know what I mean?
You don't
So
look like the crackhead though.
no,
A
but
lot
I
of people that
certainly loved it.
a lot of people that used to do crack still have the crackhead
Uh-huh.
look. Even once they get sober and get their life together, you're
Yeah,
like,
100%.
that still
Yeah,
has a little bit of a
yeah.
you didn't retain any of
No,
that.
I didn't retain any of that, thank God. But I also got like addicted to fucking health and working out and all that after the fact. But
Healthy addictions are a great thing.
yeah. It's for me, it's like kind of the only way, because I'll never not be an addictive person.
Yeah.
I get addicted to fucking shopping or talking or drinking water or whatever the fuck it is. So like, I might as well make it healthy stuff, tattooing, like the bulk of, I had a few tattoos when I was using, but like the bulk of them came after the fact, you know?
Well, you're not going to spend heroin money on a tattoo.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Not unless they're going to tattoo heroin into my bloodstream. But with her, getting back to the question, she was just like, I was like, she had known what was going on to an extent, and we didn't have kids then, so it was like she was traveling a lot for work, so it was easy to kind of, for her to be in a bit of denial and me to hide shit. And then once the cat was out of the bag completely, and after a bunch of different treatment places and stuff like that, it was like, you go and hopefully you'll get yourself better, and if you can't, sorry, you know what I mean? That was the attitude, the hard line she took.
That's
And
the
then,
best thing.
yeah, and then I remember once it was like, maybe, I don't know, fucking 20
So she
days.
wasn't the enabler.
No, not
which
at
is
all.
good.
It was like
People listen to that. The enabler has good intentions,
right,
and love and
Right.
care, but they're not doing the best thing for the
right.
other
It's
person.
not the healthiest, best thing for the other person. So she was naturally not an enabler.
And it's not healthy for
Yeah.
the enabler.
Yeah,
It's bad all the way around.
100%.
Bad all
Which
the way
is
around.
why there's a program for them.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So she's not an enabler. She's, so I remember when I had come home from like detox and treatment, and I really had started going to meetings and doing my thing. And this time, I tried to get sober for like 5 years and failed every couple of hours for 5 years. Like, I'm gonna 2 hours later, I'm high. Yeah, one more. Yeah, and finally, without getting into the story of it, there was a moment where it was like, okay, that's it. And I was in a hospital when that happened, and I come out, and I was maybe 2 weeks sober now, and like legitimately sober and working program and all that kind of stuff. And she would always my wife's very social. She would have her friends over. They'd drink a bottle of wine, whatever. And I said to her, I pulled her aside, and I was like, hey, you think just for like the meantime, you could just not drink the wine in the house, like go out. I'm not telling you not to drink it, but and she just looked at me. She was like, "No, this is my fucking house. You're the one with the fucking problem. Why should I have to suffer for it?" And at my knee jerk was, "Fuck you, you fucking cunt."
Yeah,
Like,
I'm really trying, and I
yeah,
really
yeah. That was my knee jerk. So I called the guy who was helping me out, and I said, "You believe what this fucking bitch said?" Like, and
he's like, "Listen here, asshole."
Yeah, he was like, "Listen here, asshole. She's fucking right. Like, it's not her problem. It's yours. You should have this. What we're trying to do here is get you in a position where you can be anywhere you want in life, and as long as you're doing the right thing, it shouldn't affect you." So she's absolutely right. And why should she have to modify her life because you're a fucking loser?
What in the Duck podcast is proud to be sponsored by Legacy Ink, the finest in tattoo pigments. I've been using this ink exclusively for over 20 years myself. It has been recently rebranded and marketed, but it has been the same recipe for decades. Real, hand-mixed tattoo pigments that heal great and last. People always comment on the yellow that I use and the yellow tattooed on me. My favorite, the Mayan yellow. I have seen countless 20-plus-year-old tattoos with the colors still vivid. Don't duck around with all these newfangled companies with their watered-down baloney. Get the tried, true, and tested good shit. You can find them on Instagram at Legacy Pigments or email Ashley today to place an order at legacyartsupplies@gmail.com. Tell them Oliver sent you and receive a special discount. Don't just do tattoos. Be part of a legacy. I mean, that's the tough love.
Yeah.
But it's a hard way to look at it.
Yeah.
But it's the fucking
It's the right thing.
fucking
Yeah,
way.
it's the right fucking way. And it was perfect. And like we still laugh about it to the 22 years later. We still
love
like,
that.
remember that fucking time you wouldn't fucking not drink wine? And she's like, and she'll still take without even she won't even joke about it now. She'll still take that same attitude, like, yeah, well, it was your fucking problem. You're fucking
Oh my
loser.
God, it's great. That's fucking great.
Yeah.
Oh man, you worked the program a long time. You
Mhm.
also have been a person that's helped a lot of people.
Yeah.
And when Dave was
Mm-hmm.
newly sober, you
Mhm.
were, I don't know if technically his sponsor or just his friend or just helped him or
Yeah.
he had mentioned that you were that person for him,
Right.
at least at some point in his life.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to do too.
Yeah. And Dave was my sponsor when
Yeah.
at one point, because the guy who was helping me out, for those of you who might not know what a sponsor is or what we're talking about, like it's supposed to be anonymous and all that stuff,
Yeah.
but it's someone who kind of helps you through the program.
Yeah.
And the guy who was helping me was on his way out. Everybody knew it. I knew it, and then I had said to him, hey, you want to just, I got some work that I got to do. You want to help me? And he did, and now, and then I returned that, not favor, but that task for him.
Yeah.
And in fact, the guy who dropped me off, a guy who I used to fucking shoot dope with, who had gotten sober a little bit before me, who took me to the hospital for the last time I was going into the detox once I got sober, and helped me tremendously. He went out after like a year and relapsed and then called me, and I was his sponsor. So it just works like that, and it's not like these labels mean a fucking thing. It's like, you need help, I'll help you.
Yeah.
I need help, you help me. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
But it's still a hard task.
Yeah,
It's a hard
it
job.
is.
And I've had a bunch of friends come in and out of trying to be sober, not being sober, or whatever. And it's like, I've been really bad at helping people at some points. Like at some points I've been, I want to help somebody, but I don't really, there's a lot of years that I was just so disassociated, with what it was like. That I didn't have the compassion that I should have had at certain points. And I was like, well, just get it together, loser.
Yeah,
know
but
what I mean?
I mean, I've had that. That's normal. I mean, there's been plenty of times. And there's also, I mean, I hate to fucking say this, but there's also times where, like, I know just from the fucking tone in your voice
If you're serious.
if you're serious or not. And I've learned from being burned
Yeah.
on wasting my time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times, when someone's like, someone will call me
Yeah.
and say, I have a friend who X, Y, and Z. Can you talk to them? Sure. Okay, well, their number is, I said, no. You give them my number
Mhm.
and you have them call me. Like, right off the bat, I'm not chasing someone down to
Yeah.
help them. They
And
got
half those people might not ever call.
Most of them don't.
Yeah.
That's my point. It's like, just by doing that, I know if this person's serious or not, because, and the ones that do call, I'll obviously talk to and try and help, just by an example of, this is what I did. That's all I can do.
Yeah.
Is,
I mean,
this is what I did. If you want to try and do that, do it. You know what I mean?
The age-old story is you can't help someone who doesn't really want the help.
No,
And I've tried that a bunch, and it's like,
yeah, a million people tried to help me before, and until I was ready to be helped or wanted, even wanting it. I wanted to be helped for the last fucking 55 years. I've wanted help.
But after this next,
yeah,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah, but after this next, so like, you've learned from experience to figure out who really is talking to you and who really isn't. But yeah, in fact, a buddy of mine who's a good friend of mine, who I used to party with way back in the day, like from the Faustino days and all that kind of stuff. He had come to me 10 years ago, cried his eyes out on my porch. I really don't know what to do. Other people were suggesting, dude, try this, try that, try this, try that. I was like, why don't you just come? If you were really serious about this, I'll take you to a meeting tomorrow. But you got to call me in the morning because otherwise I'm going to go about my day.
Yeah.
He called. We went. It was a shitty fucking meeting. Like, it just was not. I could tell he's not relating at all. So I said, there's a reason why they're all over the city. Let's go to another one tomorrow. We went to that. And he just had me like, hey, will you give me a cake for mine? In LA, they give a cake if you're for your sober anniversary. And he just had 10 years. You know what I mean? And like, I remember him like a month into being sober, he had gotten himself a sponsor. He was working the thing. And he said, my sponsor, I don't even remember what it was, but my sponsor told me that I should do this and that and this and that. And he was calling me to bitch and for me to say, dude, you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
That's what he was calling for. And I was like, your sponsor's right, dude. Just fucking do it. Click. And then he called the sponsor and he told this story just the other day. And his sponsor was like, hey, you got a good friend there. You know what I mean? and you know, I was right. Like, just, he's telling you that for a reason. The guy knows what he's talking about. Just fucking do it. You know, stop resisting and just do what the guy fucking tells you. So yeah, there's a lot of that. But yeah, it's just, you know, it doesn't have to be that. He asked me how to, you know, help set up the fucking thing that you couldn't set up before the show. And like, I'll help you.
I think.
What program are you running?
The good news is that I started running the cameras long before we got the audio figured out. So we'll have some B-roll of me trying to figure out how to get this thing going. It's always exciting when I'm out on my own without my AV guy.
Right.
Because at home in the setup, it's all set, and I just all I have to do is sit right here
and talk. Yeah.
I'm learning the technical side of it.
Right.
So I'm not the technical guy.
Yeah, I'm not the technical guy either. And that was the other thing, just to jump back to the documentary. Like, there was a point, and this is still, to me, the most endearing part of filming that documentary. There was a point where I would get stuck on some editing thing that I'm like, I fucking can't figure out how to do this. I don't even have a touchstone. Like, I don't even know what these mean. And I found this kid who was like a 13-year-old kid, like in Norway, who had all these tutorials working on editing systems. And like, I should have credited him in the film because I would just go to his thing and look it up. And sure enough, there's a video on how to fix it. 2 seconds, you know? So I kind of learned from this 13-year-old Norwegian kid that I've never met in my life how to edit.
So, I mean, that project in general was an experiment.
Right. Yeah. It was just, let's just make it and see what see what happens with it, you know? So yeah, March 1st.
March 1st. So the other project you got going on is no kind of timeline whatsoever.
No. Well, I mean, we're just in the process
figuring it out.
Well, the first few episodes are written, the pitch deck is made, like, you know, treatments, all the stuff is, now we're out and actively starting to pitch it and sell it, try and sell it. So yeah.
Well, other than that, you've also done, man, you've done so much shit. You've done a lot of art, done a lot of paintings, done some of, what do you call assemblage or, you know, cool little stuff for art shows and stuff.
Right.
I mean, you've just constantly, everything I know about you is you're always doing something creative.
Right.
You're always surrounded by people that are creative, and you're always got your finger in something.
Mm-hmm. That used to get me in trouble, having my finger in something. But now that I'm married.
Now that you're married. I mean, you've been married a long time, but.
Yeah, no, I've been married a long time. So, yeah, I mean, I wish I could do more. Like, I always feel like I'm not really pulling my weight in what I want to.
I was going to say, do you have major goals of what your next thing is going to try to be? Or you're just kind of like.
I definitely want to paint more.
Yeah.
And it's just finding the time. I mean, you know, I got 2 kids. I mean, they're at the age now where it's like, okay, so my son just went off to college, freshman in college. My daughter just turned 16, which means driving now, and I'm going to see her less. So now I'm getting to that point in my life where it's like, I am going to have less time eaten up because a lot of my
Less
life
responsibilities. Yeah.
was I got to drive the kids. Yeah, I got to take them to this appointment. I got to do that, and that's starting to come to a
Oh,
close
every
now.
day I talk to you, you're like, oh, I'm doing this. I'm
Yeah,
taking this. I'm
yeah.
picking up
You
Lola. I'm
called me
dropping
this
off.
morning. I'm like, yeah, dropping Lola off school in
Yeah.
the valley. I'll be home in half an hour. Yeah, and that's coming to a close. So I've really been in the consciousness of thinking like, what do I want to pick up more? That I've been using them as an excuse to
Well,
be
you're
lazy about.
you're
You
getting
know?
close to an empty nest over here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I definitely want to pay more. Finding the time, and that's committing. Like here's the thing: is once I get into the zone of doing something, I'm obsessed with it because I'm a fucking addict. So I gotta finish and I gotta make. So that's one thing I want to definitely do more of. Um, I've been taking guitar lessons from my son. Luca plays, and he has this amazing Nick Maybury is his teacher. He's an amazing Australian.
We got 40 guitars here.
Yeah, yeah. So and
You
I
got to
play.
play a little.
Well, I play a little,
Yeah.
but I want him now play a lot. You know what I'm saying? So when Luca went to school, I told his guitar teacher, "Hey, bro, let's just keep the same appointment that Luca had, and I'll just fill in." And we were just working on blues riffs and cool shit that I've always wanted to play, but I don't have the guitar know-how to figure it out.
Yeah.
So he's like, we're having fun doing that. So I'm like starting to do more stuff like that, but that's just like personal criteria. Like
Yeah.
I'm not looking to be in a band, like at fucking 55 years old. Like,
well, Lucas started playing pretty young,
yeah,
right?
he started playing young. Yeah.
I mean, Dave Navarro's been a part of his life since he was born, correct? Yeah.
Yep.
Is he?
Yeah, Dave was at the hospital when both my kids were born. Yeah.
I mean, he's going to college now.
Mhm.
Does he have any musical aspirations
No.
still, or is it just
I've
hobby?
asked him, I'm like, do you want to, you should get a band or whatever. And he's played like in high school with his friends. They've played at he started the music club. That's what it was called at his high school, where he would bring his guitar or his bass a couple of times. He plays both and amps and stuff. And they would play for kids outside at lunchtime, like just jamming, like shit like that. And I said to him, what about taking some courses at school, like music production, this and that? And he's like, I have no aspiration to become a musician. He's like, I love that I just play it for myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, great. Because
I mean, the majority of guitar owners are just hobbyists.
Yeah. So he's like, I just love being able to play and playing and zoning out. He's like, I don't want to be a rock star or any of that.
He's probably seen quite a bit of
Yeah.
probably got a trauma in his Uncle Dave.
Yeah.
If you
occupational hazards.
Yeah, depending on what lens you look at it, it could be this glorious lifestyle or this downtrodden beatdown. You know what I mean? And Dave's got some of both there.
Yeah. So, but he's just not that kid too. He's just like, he has so many qualities that I don't have, that I'm like, I don't know where the fuck you got that, because his mother and myself don't possess certain qualities, where he just like, I don't give a fuck what anyone fucking thinks.
Like, where'd this kid come from?
Yeah. Like, I'll just play what I want to play. Even the music he listens to, I was very sure to give music so important to me as just an art form, even though I'm not a professional musician by any means. So I gave the kids like foundation, where I was just drilling them with music when they were little kids. And even him, he's like, he'll listen to, Pantera and Slayer, and then the next song is like some, corny 80s song, and then a country song, and like, he doesn't give a fuck what his friends think. He doesn't give a fuck what's popular or what's not. I like what I like, and whatever I don't like, I really don't care about. And I'm like, I don't know where you got that from, bro, but that's awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So he's good like that. Whereas my daughter, like every little fucking TikTok trend, I'm like, don't listen to them, those fucking idiots online. You know what I mean? Like, she's like that.
Well, I have high hopes for Lucas' generation.
Yeah.
The very previous generation
Yeah.
had a lot of problems and a lot of insecurities and a lot of not that self-assurance. And I think that everybody's seen it.
Yeah, I think it's got.
Everybody's seen it.
I think it's gonna swing.
15 years ago and 10 years ago, and everybody's seen what's going on, and people are like,
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
everybody's steering a little bit around that, and
Right.
it's like you've got what is he 18, 19?
He just turned 19
19.
a few
Yeah,
weeks ago. Yeah.
kids that are 19 10 years ago were growing up and seeing what's going on, and
Different. Yeah.
they're getting it. The tides are turning just a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think I mean, I really hope that the lazy flip flop generation is going to die off.
Yeah.
People realizing, I mean, there's a whole generation of people that just don't want much,
Yeah.
and now you've got teenagers that want things again,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because obviously I have kids that age, 16 and 19. So I have this conversation a lot with people, and I see something in them. My kids are both polar opposites.
Oh
You
yeah,
know my kids. Like Lola's super social. Like I always say, like you could put Lola you can land her in the Gaza Strip, and she'll have Palestinian friends and Israeli friends and have them all hanging out together like that. Like
Yeah.
she's just got that about her. Whereas my son, he's more introspective and like if you want to have a conversation with him, it has to be something that he wants to talk about. He'll talk to you all night. But if
otherwise he's just like, hi.
yeah, otherwise he won't. He doesn't waste his breath. And I'm like, Luca, why don't you? He's like, why? I don't like anything that's being said or want to talk. So, like, so they're polar opposites in that way. But I do think they both have this realization of seeing absurdities and mistakes that were made in the kids before them. And you and I are from a generation where like somebody put it so eloquently, and I'm gonna plagiarize because I can't remember exactly who it was, but it was some video online or some podcast or something that I was listening to, and they were like, Gen X and our generation, we had to find a cure for boredom when we were young.
Yeah.
Now kids have to find a way to be bored. In other words, they're so distracted 24/7 by phones and apps and TikToks and social media and all that they actually need to figure out the art of being bored and by themselves. Where we were bored and by ourselves, we had to make our connection. And that's a huge difference. And I think my kids, at least I see them, even my daughter just the other day was like, you're so lucky that you grew up without a phone. And for her to say that to me after like 16 years of growing up the way she grew up, I'm like, thank God you fucking get it.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a middle generation in there that didn't have the luxury of getting it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we were the last generation to grow up in that like post-war educational system of desk and a chalkboard without smart boards and computers and iPads and all that. We're kind of the last ones that, didn't have a connect, like a lifeline to parents and all that. Like you left the house, you came back when it was dark. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it was, and your parents didn't freak out about, cause I'm guilty of it too. Like I have them on fucking
Where they
apps
at?
and
Where they
trackers,
going?
where
Yeah.
they are, who they with. We live in a fucking different world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy.
I also think your kids grew up in this area where there's most kids their age in this area are completely spoiled
Oh yeah,
and enabled
100%.
and there's a lot of young kids that just don't have a bunch of ambition, and they've seen that,
Mm-hmm.
but they see how you are, and I mean, you obviously did something to get them to steer from that.
Yeah,
Which
I physically beat them. No.
yeah, I mean,
Just kidding.
it worked for me. I got physically beat.
Yeah, so did I. But yeah, it's I think the individual, the parents, it all matters, and the environment around them. You know what I mean? Like
I would say this is a crazy environment to grow up in.
It is.
Like I look at my childhood. I grew up in a small town, Fort Worth. It's like it was a city, but it's we lived on the suburbs, and it was like,
yeah.
but you literally could just ride your bike or skateboard 10 miles in any direction, and nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah,
Everything's
yeah.
fine. Like you can't do that.
No, not here. Yeah, not here.
Like a couple blocks down there,
yeah,
it's sketchy, bro.
Oh yeah. Oh, on this block it gets sketchy. Fucking last night, I I have, you know, the Ring cameras on my house and stuff like that. Last night I go to move my car, and um our street looks like a nice calm street by
Yeah.
appearance, but at night there's sketchiness that goes on,
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
because it's
because it's
h
3
how
blocks away.
3
Yeah.
blocks.
So these dudes are. I go to move my car from the street into my driveway at like 7, 8 o'clock.
Barely dark.
Yeah, it just got dark, and I see that these guys are parked in a car behind my car, and I look at them and I go, like, just to let them know I see that you're
Yeah.
here, whatever, and they're like late teens, early 20 something. Then there's a few kids. I figure they probably pulled over. They're smoking a joint or something in the car, right? Doing something they shouldn't be, but I'm also not that guy, you know.
Yeah.
So I pull the car in, and then I start watching on the Ring camera, you know. One guy gets out and he takes a piss by my neighbor's tree, right?
That's not
And
good.
then so I go outside and I'm just kind of standing there like pretending I'm dicking around on the phone and this
Yeah.
and that. And they're talking and I'm hearing kind of what they're saying. And then I go and I just sit on the front steps like no shirt on. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, you know,
You're not the average resident of this
no,
street,
no,
by the
not
way.
of the street. And
Yeah.
they finally pull away. So then I go on the app and I look, and you know, you can scroll back the history of your cameras, right? And like they parked there like an hour ago, and we're just sitting in that car for like an hour. And now
Well, he
my
needed to
mind's
pee.
thinking, well, now I'm thinking like, were they casing? You know, because there's robberies in my neighborhood all the
Yeah.
time. Cars get stolen, this and that. But you know, and the thing is I have my son's in college right now, but my mentality always was I got fucking kids in the house.
Yeah.
You know, I have gotten out on the porch and stood there with my fucking shotgun, like just to let people know this is not the one.
Yeah.
This ain't the house. You saw the sign
Yeah.
out front. You got the same sign
I
at
got
your
the
house.
same
Yeah,
sign.
yeah, yeah. Protected by fuck around and find out. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But yeah, my kids, you know, it's a different place that they're growing up in. But yeah, my kids go to private school. There's kind of a part of me that's like, I'm glad you live on the street, which is nice, but it's sketchy right there.
Yeah.
You need a little of that too. You know what I mean? So
I can't imagine growing up. I mean,
here, yeah.
my life would be my childhood would have been like so drastically different.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it seems like if you were just to walk out in your front yard, look at this street, you're like, oh man, this could be anywhere.
Right.
This could be Kansas.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you are surrounded.
But it's not.
on
It's
all
LA.
fronts. Yeah,
and,
you're
like,
surrounded.
you know, fucking homeless Joe is gonna walk by any minute and then start yelling on the top of his lungs and da da da. And I got hookers on fucking Western right over there. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's crazy.
Well, we were talking the other day when the fires were here, and you got this area got smoked out and ashed out and everything.
Mm-hmm.
How close to here did shit burn down?
So,
But you're like, there's a lot of concrete between us and that.
yeah, well, here's how that went for me. So we're watching just like the fucking rest of the world, but obviously I'm here. So we're watching Pacific Palisades and the Eaton fire, the one in Altadena. We're watching those two because those are like, what the fuck? And that night in particular, you know, there was shit blowing everywhere. The wind was insane.
Which is why the fire
Which
spread.
is why the fire spread so fast. And so it wasn't out of the realm of possibility that if stuff did catch fire around here, all it takes is a nice gust and it lands on your roof and boom, there you go.
Yeah.
So we're watching, and then all of a sudden, you know, in living in LA, we have like a map app that shows you where fires are in California. So I'm looking at the app where the red zones are, and I'm like, all right, we're good. We're good for now. Then out of nowhere, the news is like, Runyon Canyon is on fire, which is now straight north from here and not that far. And I sent you that picture.
Yeah.
And it was like, that was from my
your
brother's roof.
Your brother took that.
But the roof is like exactly where we are, but it's just a little bit that way, right? So I had to go into that's when you realize how unprepared you are to leave. Like, you don't know what you're going to bring. So I went into my garage. We have suitcases in there. I grabbed a couple of suitcases. I said, let's just pack these up in case. So we do so, and with essentials, and we're watching, and I'm
All I
watching it
need is
like
this
this.
thermos
Yeah,
and this
and this
lamp.
lamp, and I don't need anything else. I need this. Paddleball. So uh when it hit Runyon Canyon, which for people who don't know what LA is like, so the Hollywood signs up on top of the Hollywood Hills, and there's a bunch of canyons that come down, and Runyon Canyon's kind of just north of where we are right now. And then there's a few major streets like Franklin, Hollywood Boulevard, Sunset Boulevard, Sunset and Hollywood being the famous boulevards. So my game plan with my wife and my daughter at the time, Luca was up in the rain in Seattle, so he had no worries. I said, if that thing hits Hollywood Boulevard, we're out of here, because there's a bunch of stores and shops and gas lines, and this, because that means Sunset's going next, and that's when the wind can really bring shit into our area.
Yeah.
Plus, there were motherfuckers lighting
I
fires
saw it.
all over the city. So it's like, once the fires are happening, like, I'm looking out the window too, like, who's that fucking guy walking out?
He's gonna start a fire.
Yeah, like, this guy's gonna fucking start a fire. Not on my watch, that kind of. So you're getting into that mentality. But
A lot of people said, I saw videos of people starting fires, and people are like, "Oh, conspiracy that people were just starting random fires."
no, I live
was like,
here. People
"Dude,
were starting fucking fires.
what the fuck?"
Yeah, it's crazy. And the thing is this: are these just insane psychopathic assholes, or are they
Or-
being paid to do it by whoever, or is it domestic terrorism in that sense? Like, you don't know, but it doesn't really even matter
Yeah.
when
It
you're in
definitely
that
happened.
moment. But oh yeah, I mean, people caught people doing it and beat them down, you know what I mean? And it was on the news and all that kind of shit. So but yeah, it was fucking scary. And then now you got to worry about how much shit burned, how many fucking Tesla batteries, how many phones, how much oil from paintings, this and that is in the air now. Like, so I could go down that rabbit hole, but I also don't want to at all, because it's like, you're like, well, the air you're breathing. I'm like, dude, I fucking smoked for like 40 years of my life. I put drugs in my veins. Like, I can't live worrying about every
single little
fucking,
thing.
niblet of corn that I eat that was grown in Los Angeles now. You know what I mean? Like, I can't live that way. But that shit's real still, and like, where's all the toxicity gonna go? But the only time we were scared was that very first night of, we might have to get the fuck out of here. And I know people that lost their everything, everything gone. I was talking to one woman that I know very well, and I was like, I don't know exactly where she lives, but I knew the area kind of. I was like, hey, how are you guys doing with the fires? And she's like, oh, we lost everything, like, in the calmest voice. And her daughter, her mother-in-law, like, they all lived around the same square blocks. All of it gone. Like, we got to borrow sweatpants.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
historically, like, if a house burns down, it's an isolated incident of something wrong with electrical or some kind of lightning strike or something, and one house in the neighborhood burns down.
Right.
This is just like a completely different
Yeah.
thing.
And it just lends so well to, like, what really happened.
There's so many conspiracies
I
about
know.
why the
Yeah,
fire started, and they're covering the tracks from P. Diddy's tunnels and all these things.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Some of them are plausible. Some of them are.
I like to entertain all of them.
Yeah.
I like to hear all. I want to know whatever details you got. Let's hear it. 'Cause it's fun.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I mean, like, for me, some of them are just ridiculous. Some of them are hilarious.
Yeah.
Some of them are eyebrow raising. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some of them are probably true. That's the way I.
No matter how crazy of a story I've heard, people say, "Oh, that's crazy." I was like, I've actually heard of crazier shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
do not.
Right.
I don't discount anything,
Yeah.
dude.
And
I was a moon landing denier in high school.
Right.
So I am
Right.
I am into some conspiracy theories,
Right.
dude. And it's funny because now that's fucking 30 years ago. Now they're coming up with new evidence every week to show me that I was right.
Right.
Like,
Right.
You were right. You
Yeah,
were right.
yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. So I mean, but every week there's also evidence to the contrary.
Right. And there's big business in conspiracy.
Whatever.
People want to believe that kind of stuff, and like I'm a conspiracy theorist in this sense. One, I love it.
I love
whether
it.
I believe it or not.
I love it.
I still love it.
Yeah,
Like
I
whether
love
I
it.
because there's plenty that I'm just like, whatever, that's not true, but I love that that's out there.
Like Paul McCartney did.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's fascinating.
I love it.
Right. And this is the point that I made with someone about the Paul McCartney thing. They're like, "Oh, did you see the documentary about Paul McCartney's dead and the fall, the fake Paul and
Paul, dude.
Faux Paul and all that and da 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 da." And I was like, "Well, here's the thing, though. If that guy is a fake Paul, the hits that guy has made, he's awesome.
He's
like
the better Paul.
He's the better Paul anyway. So like, all the solo career he had and all that. And I'm just like, well, so what the fuck difference does it make? So, but I'm a conspiracy theorist in the sense that I don't necessarily believe anything on the first telling to me of it.
Yeah.
There's always more than meets the eye with anything in life, even if it's a little small detail.
But there's a certain kind of person that hears a tall tale and they dismiss it and don't think about it again.
Right.
And then there's me who hears this tall tale and I'm like, tell me all about it.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Tell me, I'll follow that.
Yeah.
Conspiracy anywhere it goes.
Right,
I want to hear it all.
Yeah.
I want to, and I'm just like, I'll say I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just try to get more. I mean, I love having conversations with flat earthers. It's the best.
Right.
But it's like no matter how crazy it is, I'm like, it's still possible.
Right.
And people like my argument about the Paul McCartney being dead is not argument, but my banter is people like it's crazy that could never happen. And I said, oh, it's possible.
Right.
I don't necessarily truly believe 100% that Paul McCartney really died. Now we have a fake Paul.
Right.
But I do believe it's possible.
Well, that's the thing. Is
because in 1963, they could have hid anything.
Oh, especially like it's way more.
They've done it.
Conspiracies have to be pulled off differently in today's technology.
Leaders of countries have died, and they have put subs in. To dismay the public, so eruptions don't happen.
Right.
And then they announced that he died at a different time.
Right.
Just to stay off.
Stay off. Right. Well, the thing with the whole Paul McCartney thing is that the motivation for faking his death would not just be the monetary gains that the band forging ahead, but the fact that it would cause mass hysteria and like young teens would be committing suicide in the streets if they put out that information, which with the hysteria that was going on back then, that could be a plausible thing.
I just believe that they could have done it is what I believe.
I think the real P. Diddy died.
Well, whether it really happened or not, I believe that it could have happened.
Right.
And I believe they could have pulled it off. And the thing I say to people is I was like, look, at that time, the Beatles were the #1 money grossing item on the planet.
If you make money the motivation, anything's possible.
I know. That's why my argument against like professional sports is there's too much money involved.
Yeah.
Every time they uncover that a World Series was fixed, I'm like, duh.
Yeah.
I'm like, it doesn't surprise me at all.
That kind of shit I believe goes on way more than we'll ever know.
I mean, there was like a stretch of like many, many years that every single playoff series went to 7 games.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you know why? Why wouldn't they win in 4?
Right.
Because they lose
how much
millions
money.
of dollars.
I was just gonna say, how much money those 3 games. Extra games,
televised.
Yeah.
They're making $1 million in hot dogs at each game.
Yeah.
The hot dog salesman wants it to go to 7 games. Everybody.
Like I said, as far as conspiracy goes, like in the same vein as you, I don't believe in a lot of conspiracies the way they're told to me, like in the sense that person has the real story necessarily, but I do believe that anything is possible. And I always go with this rule. If you can think it, if someone can think it, it can be done.
Yeah.
That's the human experience almost. You know what I mean? Think about someone. if you didn't think that we could fly one day,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There would be no fucking planes, you know what I mean? So if you can think it, it could be done somehow. Someone else has thought it too. That's probably a lot smarter than I am. You know what I mean?
And I don't believe they've told me the truth on everything.
Yeah, I don't think they can.
And I'm anxiously awaiting more JFK information.
Oh yeah. Oh, you know, I'm a huge JFK.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite subjects.
Yeah, the new video that they're trying to show where they said
The guy,
where the driver
yeah.
shoots him. I've watched that video so many times and I'm like, I can't I don't have the I need to watch it somewhere else on my phone, or I
Right.
need to get my glasses on or something because
Right.
it's so tiny now that
Yeah,
focus.
yeah.
Like I need to see it on a large format
yeah.
screen.
There was
Show
a
me the
really
details.
good. Sometimes I love, like, you know how something that's conspiracy has that element of low quality cheesiness to it, or whatever?
Bigfoot, Loch Ness monster, everything.
Like,
Yeah.
Sometimes I love just on an entertainment value going
Because you
down
could
those.
say, look, there it is.
There's this one guy who I sent it to, like, Dave and other people that I know that are into the JFK thing. This one guy who's who, I think he's dead now, but he was locked up in prison for something else, and he claims that he's the guy who was the shooter, and that it was a contract thing, a government contract, and his story would make. I'm like, this is how I prefaced the texting or the emails that I was sending the video to people in, is like, I don't know if this is bullshit or not, but this story is awesome.
Yeah.
And it would make just even a great movie. And it's just a camera and a guy, like bad audio quality. He's not really mic'd up all that well. And I'll send it to you after this.
Kind of like the George Harrison documentary.
Yeah, kind of like
It's
the George Harrison. Yeah. We got these tapes. We don't know who sent them to us, but they're these tapes. But it's like of that ilk, but there's no even camera cuts. It's just a guy telling the story straight all the way through. They throw a little bit of B-roll on it here and there. And he talks about how he was contracted by a guy who knew him from a mob guy, and and how he was militarily trained and he did hits for people, and he goes down this whole fucking thing. And I'm like, I know that this isn't really what happened.
Yeah.
But it could be, and it would be awesome if it was just this guy instead of all this shit. And he does seem to have an answer for like
every.
What about Harvey I was, I met him the day before, and like it all kind of like
He had 20 years in prison to think about it.
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
So do you think that we're going to get some information?
No.
Yeah. I
I don't think so.
They've already, every time they release something, and I don't know how we're supposed to believe that the untainted documents are just chilling in a safe.
Yeah, I don't believe that they're even.
So here's my question is like, let's say that 40 years ago, 50 years ago, they had documents that showed what really happened.
Right.
And people don't want to release those documents. But the people that don't want to release them are the people who have control over them.
Right.
Who have them.
Right.
Why wouldn't they alter or change or delete or destroy them?
Right. Exactly.
Like the people that want to release them would have saved them. Save them. But the people that want to release them aren't the ones that have control over them.
Right.
So they're going to give us some document that's been
redacted,
or completely fraudulent.
Yeah.
Like if you show me a piece of paper that says, "Hey, this is what happened."
That's what the Warren
when was this paper written?
Right.
Nobody's seen it for 50 years.
That's what the Warren Commission did. The Warren Commission report was completely false and fraudulent, and they knew it. They knew it back then.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that was just a way to put out on the cover of Life magazine.
And even the fake one was redacted.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And then there's the school of thought like, well, what the fuck difference would it make now? Like if we just said straight up, like this is exactly, like I don't care what anyone says, this is what. First of all, who's going to really believe that you're getting the truth? It's been so far twisted and removed, and the way that the world works now with the advent of social media and the internet and stuff like that. If they said, okay, here it comes, this is This is proof. This is the actual, like, we have
LBJ was in on
film
it.
of a guy and he's shooting him from here, and this is the real film, right? We're still not going to believe that that's exactly the truth.
Yeah.
Because that's just the world we live in, right? So there'll be some people saying, oh, that was faked, that was made, this is what they want us to believe. So you're never going to really, really know. But my whole thing is like, at this point, who fucking care? Like, just tell us. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what's the value that there was someone dirty in the government, or
Well, that's
that
the
it
thing.
was a
They're,
mob thing?
they say
or...
they're worried about people losing trust
They've
in the
lost
government.
trust
Exactly.
over way lighter things.
Long time
than
ago.
that. Yeah. So
There's-
yeah, you know, but I'm with you on all of that kind of stuff. Like,
I guess I love it. I can't wait for more of it to come out.
yeah, I love it too.
Definitely going to pay attention.
Yeah. Well, they're saying that there's the version of the Zapruder film
Yeah.
that we see and
It's-
that they've released is not the real version.
It's been
of it.
audited.
It's been audited. Yeah.
Edited.
Yeah. So who knows?
When you go, I mean, this has been a topic of many different people.
Okay, go ahead.
But when you go to this Zapruder film, the facts are insane. The fact that no one saw the Zapruder film for 15 years
Right.
or whatever it was.
Right.
Like, of course they had.
Yeah. They had plenty of time. There's another great documentary too that Dave sent me about the Warren Commission and the Zapruder film, and like the processing of where the film was processed, what state they were in, the agents that were working with the CIA that brought the canisters of film. It's really again, it's like whatever lens you're looking at it through is going to make you think one thing or the other. But how much time there was to really, if you wanted to change out that film or whatever. And then I can take it a step further, even is like, if this was really going on and this hit was going to happen, this major hit was going to happen, and it was a government thing, maybe the Zapruder film and even showing it and having it show the president's head fucking get blown off and everything is set up to begin with. Yeah. Not that it didn't happen. It did happen.
Yeah.
But like, how did they let a guy hold the camera and shoot it like that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. He was a part of it, maybe.
Yeah, like maybe he was a part of it. Exactly. And like, we're going to make everybody think, and here's the proof, came from that building over there. You know what I mean? And like, it's funny because I've only been there in your home state one time.
Yeah.
To the grassy knoll. And just standing there, I was like, ooh.
Well, when I was in high school, we went to the grassy knoll and we would go hang out there. And back then there was not a lot going on down there. A lot of people just go down there and smoke weed, hang out on by the picket fence or whatever. But I remember being young and standing by the fence, and they painted X's on the street where each bullet hit the car, right? And so you could stand there at the fence and look at the X and then look at that building up there. When I was a teenager, I did the whole thing and I said, no way he was shot from that window.
Right.
I grew up hunting and shooting and whatever. And I was like, he wasn't shot from that window.
Right.
There's no way.
Yeah.
And so I just never believed.
Right.
And so I used to talk to my mom, I would say things and my mom was like, oh, Oliver, you're crazy, believing those conspiracies or whatever. And I was just like, there's no way he was shot from that window.
Right.
I just never believed it, ever. And, it's just, if you go there, you can look at it and tell me he was shot from that window. There's no fucking way he was shot.
I was a kid that grew up in New York, and I don't think I believe that guy did that, like, just from seeing it on fucking TV. You know what I mean? But that's why I'm going to send you that one, because you'll like it, because he has explanations for all that shit, too.
Oh, the guy that says he was
the guy shooter. That says that he was the actual shooter, yeah.
Did he know Woody Harrelson's father?
Yeah.
You seen that? You hear that podcast?
Yeah.
I don't think Woody Harrelson acknowledges that.
No, I don't think he does.
His
either.
brother told this whole story, but I don't think Woody is acknowledging it at all.
I don't think he does.
But he might be linked.
Yeah, might be linked. God damn it. Hang on. Oh.
Hey.
I'll thwart that for now.
Well,
yeah. Whew, that was a lot.
looking forward to hearing more about all these things that are gonna come out. Who knows if they're gonna come out? I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, you can go down the fucking. Is there an ice wall? Is there fucking aliens? Is there who shot JFK? Like,
Who I
there's
mean,
a wealth to
we have
keep us
we
occupied.
have elevated our society to where news is entertainment,
News is entertainment,
which is so crazy to
and
me.
no one believes anything anyway.
It's so crazy. And you have major news organizations saying exact opposite things,
Mhm.
one channel away from each other.
Yeah.
And people on each side believing their side. Like,
Well, it's
it's
fucking
so
it is nuts. And the thing to me that I always say to people, I'm like, the two things that fucking killed the world the way it was when we were kids were social media and the 24-hour news cycle. Because when I was a kid, the news came on at like 5 o'clock.
and 10 o'clock.
Yeah, and 10 o'clock. And it was usually a rebroadcast.
But it was the same news at 5 and 10.
At 5 and 10. And it was like on one or two major channels or three major network channels.
Fair and unbiased,
Fair and unbiased.
supposedly.
Yeah, supposedly. And then, which I do believe it was more so like during the Walter Cronkite era and stuff like that, because
Yeah.
as much as it could be, because it wasn't for profit.
Integral
The profit
reporting.
the profit motive was completely different. So really, you're just appeasing some sponsors, maybe.
But there was no Moderna ads during the news.
Right. Yeah. And so it's like I really believe, like, yeah, news is just entertainment. That's why you could watch John Oliver or Bill Maher or some of the fucking, like the conservative, the leftist conservative shows or whatever, which I enjoy a lot. Like, I get a lot of my news stories from those shows because they're
Delivered comedically.
Like, so if I'm going to hear news, whether I want to believe it or not,
Yeah.
and some of the things I agree with and some of the things I don't, but people will say to me, like, how could you watch this or how could you watch that? And I'm like, I'm flipping back and forth from like Fox and CNN constantly because you're going to get two different stories,
Completely different.
and whichever one is more entertaining is the one that is going to hit me probably more. You know what I mean? I'm smart enough to know too that there's agendas and there's motivations and stuff like that. But like, yeah, it's you don't fucking believe. That's what I teach my kids. Don't believe anything ever unless you know and have experienced it yourself.
Half of what you see and none of what you hear.
Yeah. You there's no way to believe any of it. You know what I mean?
There's a line from a Lou Reed song that says, I'm probably not going to get it exactly right, but he said, "My mother once told me, blah blah blah," and he said, "But you can't always trust your mother."
Right. Yeah.
And it also says in the songs like, "Don't believe half." He said, "None of what you hear and half what you see."
Right.
Basically, but yeah, you can't trust hearsay.
Yeah.
Credible sources.
Yeah, I can't trust like what the fucking my neighbor tells me happened. Like,
definitely don't believe what I say.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't believe what I say either. Because sometimes I'm purposely not telling you the truth, and sometimes I'm just ignorant and don't know, and I'm spouting something that's not true. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Every once in a while, I'll hit a truth without even knowing it. That I'm throwing out there.
I love it when I'm like surprised that I was right.
Yeah.
Like, I was just an asshole yelling crazy shit. I can't believe I was right.
Yeah.
I love that. Which is happening a lot.
Yeah.
But moving on.
Fucking crazy.
What's your immediate next thing you're into? Like, you
as far as
like
work
this week. What's today? What's going on?
Today is what? Today's Friday.
It's Friday.
Right?
The weekend's
So
coming.
Friday.
You're going to Vegas soon? Your birthday's coming up?
I'm going to Vegas next weekend. My birthday's coming up this Sunday. Probably just do a little small dinner. I'm not a birthday guy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't go crazy for my own birthday. But we'll probably do a little dinner.
Hopefully you win some money.
Yeah.
Hit the crap table.
Next week. So my extended family on my wife's side, so they're using my birthday as the excuse to go to Vegas because most of them are on the East Coast and they're coming in, and so yeah, there'll be like fucking big dinners there. And I love you, and I've been to Vegas a few times. We love Vegas.
Yeah, I do. I love Vegas for that 2 or 3 day window.
Yeah, 2 or 3 days. That's it. That's why I'm going Friday to Sunday. I'm home.
Bingo.
Yeah, But so doing that, and then really just today, wait for my daughter to get home from school,
Yeah.
figure out what's for dinner tonight, and that's pretty much it.
Bingo. Well, I wish I was going to be in Vegas with you for your birthday.
Yeah, I wish you were too, actually.
I'm going to be in Fresno. That's this weekend or next weekend?
That's next weekend.
I'll be in Salt Lake City next weekend.
Yeah, I'd rather be in Vegas. Over Salt Lake City.
Not quite the Vegas.
Right.
Well, good. Thank you so much for letting me come in here and bullshit.
Yeah, man. Thank you. This is always fun.
Looking forward to watching the documentary again. It's coming out March 1st, Morning Sun. And I can't wait to, I know a little bit more about your new projects and what we can really talk about. But it's just interesting to see, to know somebody. I know a lot of people in a lot of different areas. But, it's very interesting to know people that are on this inside of what's going on. I hit you up a lot too long ago about something about some crazy Hollywood shit that are going on, just like whatever. And you're just like, yeah, there's most people behind the scenes aren't really what's being portrayed. Right. It's like you got these actors that are saying all this crazy shit or whatever, and it's like it's not really the
it's
main
not
consensus.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about too. Yeah, and it's not. Yeah,
but the other cool thing is that I think we were talking about before we started recording this is that how this big shift in movie making is kind of happening, and I'm excited for that because I feel like independent filmmaking is going to become non-independent. It's going to become not the minority. Right. I think independent filmmaking is going to become the way to do it. Yeah. Instead of the big studio money controlling, making the same bullshit over and over.
Yeah. And what was the last most exciting time in cinema history? It was like the early to mid 90s, late 90s.
The breakout of Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. The indie where you knew like kind of a style and an overtone of what you were about to see, even if it was completely different from
people like Wes Anderson, like breaking down a wall and making whatever fucking movie they want. Right. And then there was the few big. We talked a little about Ridley Scott, but the few big directors like Ridley Scott who busted against the grain and made the shit they want to do and made a movie that they wanted to make, which I think we're going to get a lot of that. Yeah. I think movie making and TV is going to be a lot better.
I think so
real
too.
soon. And I think that, you and your wife are a part of that. You're in the inside of that shit. So that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. I'm going to try.
Yeah. Well, stay fucking hard at it. And thank you so much, dude.
All right, brother. Thank you. Always my pleasure.
I don't even know how long we've been here, but
like fucking 18 hours.
I don't remember what time we got started, but it's been an hour and a half or something, I think.
Yeah, about.
Perfect time. Todd Newman, everybody. Cool. Check him out, Morning Sun, and we'll see y'all next time.
Thank you, bud.
Hey, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Come on, guys. Click all those links. Push all those buttons because it really helps us out and gets us out there to more and more peeps. What in the Duck podcast is produced by Audra Cabral and John.com Niederkorn. Our sound, video engineer, and editor is Courtney, Junior Larkins. Initial audio video setup and intro music by Blake Balake Pinchon. And a big thanks to everyone that submitted questions. Y'all keep them coming. Email me any questions you would like me to answer to whatintheduckpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on What in the Duck. What in the Duck podcast is proud to be sponsored by Anchor Screen Printing. Anchor Screen Printing has been printing t-shirts and merch products since 1999. Anchor is the place for quality, small run items. At Anchor, every print is hand done by people who care about art. You can email anchorcustoms@gmail.com to talk about getting something printed for your company, brand, or shop. Anchor Screen Printing also has its own online merch store that sells Elm Street Tattoo, Cheap Thrills, Heart and Hand, Party First Safety Maybe merch, and much more. So go to anchorscreenprinting.com today and buy some cool shit. Or you can click the link provided in this podcast to shop now.